Let me start by painting a quick picture that might sound familiar. A department starts experimenting with AI. They find a tool that works really well for a specific task. People get excited, a pilot's implemented, and everything looks great. Ready to roll it out to the rest of the agency, and then the questions start coming in. How do we secure this? Who's going to manage and maintain this solution? How do we scale it to the entire organization? And how do we prevent it from being used inappropriately? That's the moment that these AI pilots start to fall apart. My hope is by the end of this session, you'll have a good understanding of these challenges and have ideas on how to address them going forward. If that sounds like a good goal, let's get started. First, take a look at the moment that we're in. My name is Tim Howell, and I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at the North Central Texas Council of Governments. I've been working in technology and government for over 20 years across multiple government agencies. I worked at 4 cities and now the COG. I worked at the City of South Padre Island, City of Hutto, City of Katy, and the City of Georgetown. My passion is the intersection between technology and local government, and AI is the most exciting technology I've had the chance to work with. So at NCT COG, we decided to take AI head on. We were willing to get some bumps and bruises along the way if we could help other agencies adopt AI quicker. So I'm here today to share what we have learned. The fact is, AI is no longer something we're planning for, it's something we are reacting to. For example, do these sound familiar? Are you seeing rapid AI acceleration, where AI is advancing faster and it's almost impossible to keep up with? Are you experiencing rising expectations, where resident, council, leadership, et cetera, are expecting you to implement AI yesterday? Are your security teams coming to you and saying, how do we secure this? How do we maintain visibility and control as AI proliferates throughout the organization? Are you selecting your tools like throwing darts at a dartboard? Are you seeing fragmented adoption where every team is using a different tool? And are you ready for AI? Do you have the technical resources? Is your data ready, et cetera? These are all challenges that we are all facing. And the good news is you're not alone. We're all in this together. So with that in mind, that brings us to the core question of today's session. How do we scale AI responsibly and build resilience into our AI infrastructure? To scale AI responsibly, I recommend the following 3 pillars. This is what we are doing at NCT COG. The first pillar is governance. We have to define clear guardrails and accountability from the start so AI is used safely and consistently. It ensures that decisions are transparent, risks are managed, and trust is maintained throughout the adoption. So if you had good governance, you have clarity in decision-making. And governance can scale with your AI as your AI usage scales. The second pillar is enablement. Enablement focuses on giving your workforce the skills, tools, and confidence to actually use AI in their day-to-day work. This goes beyond training to include real use cases, guidance, and ongoing support. Strong enablement means confident AI use. And the last pillar is access. Access is about removing barriers so staff can quickly adopt the right solutions without starting from scratch. It includes streamlined procurement, vetted vendors, and scalable pathways, such as our Tech Share program. When access is solved, organizations can focus on implementation and outcomes and streamline their AI implementation. At COG, we're constantly evolving, changing, and adapting to the AI landscape. So this is just a snapshot of where we are today. Things will change as time goes on, and we're always happy to share our evolution at any time with any other agencies that are interested. So we started with governance very early on. We started an AI committee in 2023, and we released our first set of organizational guidelines around that same time. The committee was structured into 3 areas: research and education, use cases and guidance, and compliance and security. These 3 areas match the 3 pillars that I just covered. And we split our organizational committee into 3 working groups so that we can simultaneously work on all 3 of those pillars at the same time. So in mid-2024, we developed our first AI strategic plan, and now we're doing that annually. We just released our 2026 strategic plan. And then when agents came into play in 2025, we developed an AI agent governance framework, which we haven't started looking into agents. Very complex. You have models, you have data, you have workflows, you have tools, you have prompts, you have all these different components that make up an AI agent and an agent workflow that you have to be able to govern across the entire process. So we wanted to make sure that we had that in place as we started rolling out AI agents. And now we've rolled out approximately 10 to 15 different agents in various levels of deployment. In addition to governance, we provide trainings such as lunch and learns, workshops, use case demonstrations, et cetera. And we recently just launched an AI training platform that has dozens of different courses in it. And this includes like tool-specific training, such as like Copilot, ChatGPT, et cetera. It also includes more general training, like writing prompts, using AI safely, how to protect from biases, et cetera. So we wanted to create a baseline for all of our staff that they had the training and tool access that they needed to be able to get started with the AI and start using that in their day-to-day workflows. Once we established that baseline, now we're starting to focus more on advanced use cases or AI champions throughout the organization, so we can enable them to push the boundaries of how AI can be used in their specific areas, and then we'll take that knowledge gained and share that back with our teams to to grow and expand use cases. We're not forcing everyone to adopt and use AI. We're trying to give them the tools, give them the training, and give them the opportunity to start to play with these new technologies and learn them. And then we're trying to sell them on it by showcasing really interesting use cases in their respective areas. One of the last things we did is we created a innovation sandbox. Recommend every organization to do this if they have the resources. And what that allowed us to do, it's a completely isolated environment where we can rapidly prototype new AI solutions and test them before deploying them in the production environment. This allows us to validate, test our assumptions, pilot new technologies, et cetera, without having to go through the extensive process of vetting and getting all of the particulars ironed out. So those are some of the things that we're doing at the COG. But we've got two more people speaking today, and we've got our panelists as well that you can ask questions about to hear more about what other agencies are doing. But from there, let's just talk about where you can go from here, specifically with your organization. It's important to remember that AI adoption isn't just about tools or projects. That's why I really like the 3-pillar focus, because the governance gives you clarity and trust. The enablement gives your team confidence to use AI effectively, and access allows you to actually move forward. When you bring all of that together, you move from just isolated systems and pilots to ultimately resilient infrastructure. And our next presenter will dive deeper into what this looks like in practice. So please welcome Dustin Heisler. He's going to share with you how governance, compliance, and workforce enablement are becoming real operational capabilities for agencies.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it, and always inspiring to hear what NCT COG is up to. So, hello everyone. My name is Dustin Heisler. I'm the Chief AI Officer and U.S. General Manager for Darwin AI. And today we're going to go through a little bit of a journey. We're going to talk about AI, the future of infrastructure resilience. Now, the world is moving exponentially, and if you haven't seen this post that talks about kind of something big is happening by Matt Schumer, I definitely encourage you to check it out. And basically, this was a characterization of just some of the bold, kind of crazy things that are taking place across the world as it relates to AI. And you're probably sitting there going, "Man, it feels like things are getting quicker, things are accelerating." That's because they are. As you look at AI as a technology, it's not only a general purpose technology; it's a transformative technology, but it's on an exponential curve from a development standpoint and from an adoption standpoint. And so a few cases that are made in this post is, think back to 2022. Remember when ChatGPT was nascent? Remember when it burst into the scene and it could answer just basic questions. And then it started to evolve, right? We moved from the party trick sides of generative AI and using generative AI to write poetry and to, do those types of things into 2023. It passed the bar exam. 2024, you started to see some working software in there as a part of that. It could replicate grad level science. 2025, top engineers are starting to really look at this as an aspect of their daily workflows. In 2026, as Tim mentioned, with agents and what's happening there, kind of the dawn of the agentic revolution and a lot of things that are taking place that I'm going to unpack today that you should know about as it relates to AI and that it relates to agents. Some of this stuff is even outside of our control as public servants in the market because our citizens are going to increasingly use this. Think about you as a consumer and how you use AI as well. So now there's three waves of what we see from an AI evolution standpoint. We've all been through the first one, right? The generative wave here, where AI was used as a way to go and ask questions, a way to get answers. You are the prompt. You are the human in the loop. You're the one that is driving the output. That rapidly evolved towards where we started to see AI that helped us work together, AI that was more collaborative. We call this embedded AI, where AI is in your tools. If you think about using Office or Google Workspace or a mecca of different tools that are out there, you're noticing AI capabilities are now brought into those applications, and they allow you to not have to go to a website and do something, but to now do it directly within the experience of the applications that you're using. But we're very rapidly moving towards number three, where AI will take action. AI will start to do things for you. And you may think that that sounds crazy in theory, the notion of having AI complete, transactions or do things for you. But think back to, some of the business models that were disruptive in our time, like Uber getting into a stranger's car at 1 a.m. from the airport to drive you home, or renting, a stranger's house. These are all things that the convenience, the experience is something that we're willing to trade for. And it's something that's starting to condition new expectations. Now, where does this start? Now, if you look at how many of you are using AI and how, I use AI, it may be as simple as me asking, hey, what task should I complete this week? If you ask this in a standard generative prompt, you're going to just get back some recommendations because it doesn't know. But very rapidly, as we talked about kind of this evolution of how everything is starting to become connected, connectors and skills have emerged, which allow you to now bring in disparate data sources where now if I ask that question in Claude or any other application where I'm using MCP connectors, it's bringing my calendar, it's bringing my email, it's bringing different types of data sets in, and it's taking them together and giving me something that's far more actionable. This is starting to really change the behavior of how consumers are using it, because now you can start to normalize information without being a data scientist, without having to go and build heavy integrations. You're able to do this on the fly. Now, this is evolving because today you may be willing to give up access to your email, to your calendar, to documents, maybe some messages that are there. But in the very near future, there are companies that are betting that you'll bring health data in, that you'll bring banking data. This isn't science fiction. These are connectors that are actually in place now that you can use. And if you look at some of the new demographic bands, they're using this like crazy. They're connecting it to all of their different systems and trying to use that. But we're at this kind of tipping point now where we're going to start to see more of these mission critical applications start to connect into the way that we use AI as consumer. AI is becoming far more personal, and you're going to start to see new ways to interact with government with it. And so the opportunity for us is now to think about, number one, where is this headed? But number two, how do we interface back? And how do we keep up with this? And so you've probably heard the phrase agentic thrown around, and agent itself is often thrown around because you may have an agent or a chatbot on your website. Agentic AI starts to blur the loop, starts to blur a little bit of where human is in the loop. And this is something that's going to fundamentally shift what we call personal AI, where if you look at just the arc of major evolutionary leaps from personal computers to kind of what we've seen with cloud, this personal dynamic of AI is really this next evolutionary cycle. And this is one where you may empower AI to take action on your behalf. Now, what's important to think about in the context of how an agent differs from like a chatbot on your website or a chatbot you may use is this agent's going to take action on your behalf towards a goal. You may give it a macro goal, you may give it parameters of what you want it to do, but it's going to go and it's going to self-assign additional task to go and complete that. It's going to maintain persistent memory and context. A lot of work's being put into memory so that you don't have to constantly remind it every time where you work and those types of things. Now there's ways to set that with custom instructions. It's going to connect into all the stuff that I showed you from a connection standpoint and be able to pull relevant context about you. And it's going to operate with delegated authority. Again, there will be things that you're willing to outsource. If you think about renewing your vehicle inspection or those types of things, these are things we have to do every year. They're mundane, and it's kind of like putting your bill payments on autopilot. Some of these you will be willing to outsource to an agent to just keep up with for you, because an agent can fill out government transactional forms. It can fill out government systems. And so an agent can operate on your behalf. Now, I want to give you an example of how this is evolving, because think of an agent not just as a single thing. There's a lot of agent-based architectures that you can use in OpenAI and Claude and others. But this is moving very rapidly. And there's a technology called Paperclip that's open source that I just wanted to show you, where basically you are your own board of directors and you can basically give this set of multi-agents access to go and do something for you. And it will create agents. It will spin up different agents that have specific purposes to accomplish specific tasks for you. So, like any kind of nerd with AI, I decided I'm going to create the city of Darwin, and I'm going to have kind of this CEO agent be my mayor, and I'm going to give it a goal, and I'm going to tell it to build a comprehensive plan for the city of Darwin, and or for the city of Austin in this case. And I want to see exactly how this works. I want to see what it does from here. How does it actually architect and do this? And immediately what I'm hit with is actually hire request, where this agent has now prompted me to allow it to hire additional agents, for it to spin up new agents that will leverage the API key that I put in there in order to go and do specific research tied to that goal. I didn't tell it that, just did it. And so I approved the request, right? I can increase taxes later in my virtual city. And here it's hired a founding engineer, a municipal research analyst. It's got access to my OpenClaw setup, and then it hired a planning director. Each agent has a specific function that it created as a part of that goal. I didn't tell it to do this. I gave it a goal, build a comprehensive plan. And it did. And so it went in and it looked at all of the structure, it looked at all the existing documents. Each of these agents did several different cycles in order to pull back a robust, comprehensive plan that was tied to this goal. Now imagine this, and how this intersects each of us and how we might use things. As a citizen, it could be as simple as I'm moving to a different state. Think about all the complexity of things that I have to do along the way. I've got to interface with the DMV in that state. I've got to re-register my kids for school. I have to set up new utilities. I got to, deal with all my voter registration addresses. Now, what if you had the same type of system, a multi-agentic setup that actually just handled the details for you on those systems? It may sound like science fiction, but each one of those has existing forms that can be filled out online normally. And there's a variety of different ways that you could probably have an agent do some of that work for you today. Think about this internally, not endorsing this as a use case that you want to tell your IT team about. But if you think about an IT director that may say, you know what, I can automate my whole department using this setup as well, and have an agent that monitors help desk and replies to people that are locked out, an agent that monitors my security apparatus and reports on that, an agent that writes reports for council and for the city manager, and an agent that tracks vendors. Like, this is not a hypothetical thing. This is a real infrastructure piece that's here today. And this is just open source technology. So this is something that you can go and download and fork and create and experiment with today. So the technology is here. Now, what does this mean for all of us and kind of the purpose of today? One, we're on this collision course. So I love Tim's approach with like governance and talking about foundational. We are in this collision course where technology is moving faster than a regulatory environment. Not a surprise. It's been like that for a long time. But we also have this adoption curve where constituents, consumers, and even government employees are bringing AI into government operations. Some of it is shadow, some of it's BYO AI, where they're just leveraging it in order to help do tasks, or they're using it to interface with government. But we still have paper forms and processes and systems designed for human level entry and 8 to 5 service windows. And we haven't really designed this agent communication layer. The future of government shouldn't be a bunch of agents talking to humans in a government call center. It should be agent to agent with human in the loop driving that process. And so as we think about where this is evolving and what you need to know, right now, the past is going to your website. Agencies now are deploying chatbots. You'll hear more about that. They're finding ways to now streamline and make this more efficient. But what's next is where citizens' personal AI will operate on its behalf. If I hit a pothole going down the road, I may just have my agent notify every council member every hour, every day until it's fixed. And the infrastructure to do that can be done just through your phone. And so this is what will start to be weaponized against government if we don't think about how to interface back, and we don't think about also how to take AI and responsibly use it to drive productivity. And the future is where these agents are able to interact with one another. There's a lot of things we have to solve, like identity and other things, but it all starts back to the G word that Tim mentioned, governance. There's a gap. Now, if you look at what's holding back, what's keeping agencies in pilot fatigue and purgatory, it's the fact that we give employees policies on AI, we give them acceptable use policies, but ultimately that's not enough, because the best way to shut down AI innovation is to say, this is your approved tool and here's the policy to use it. That's too complex. Employees need this demystified for them. We have to solve this gap that exists with helping them understand what's acceptable. Right now, we're giving employees McLaren F1s in the form of AI on a road that has no speed limit signs. There's no governance structure. There's no expectations that are there, and they may be codified, but it's very difficult to follow. So my recommendations for you is when you start to think about governance, there's non-negotiables that are here. One, visibility. You have to have visibility into all AI utilization. If you've standardized on Copilot or Gemini or whatever it is, just know that the vast majority of the AI, probably 62 or more percent of the AI in your environment, you don't know about yet. And so that's shadow AI. So you have to have visibility into the stuff your employees are using in the browser, the stuff that's embedded in the applications, and the stuff that is native on your desktop. Number two, policy. You already have existing policies that can apply to AI utilization. You can create an AI policy. We can help you create one for free on our website, or you can leverage your existing policy and risk structure and apply that to AI because it is a technology. And then number three, enablement. You want to make sure that from a change management standpoint, you're thinking about how AI evolves and how it rolls out within your organization. This is critical. Now, start to think about the future capabilities that you need to build. So from, looking at just the governance around this to the acceptable use policies for it, to even just how you're going to deal with identity, to how we build services for the future with API first architectures, to audit trails that we need to be able to explain what's going on in our environment. And most importantly, the workforce readiness. You cannot neglect training both from an executive standpoint and from those roles that are going to be most impacted by this. Now, we are coming very quickly towards a reality where every citizen will have a personal AI agent. Every mobile phone company is betting on it. We are starting to see that now where people are leveraging, and if you see ChatGPT or any of the other major models go down, just go to any of your favorite social media platforms and you'll see all work has ceased. Doesn't mean employees are outsourcing their jobs to AI, but it's starting to invade the way that we augment and deal with, certain administrative functions and tasks and research and grant writing and other types of things. So it can be a huge enabler of human capital and human potential when used responsibly. But we need to build the infrastructure, and that infrastructure starts with governance, starts with kind of the visibility. It starts with doing all that. So if you're sitting here and you're overwhelmed by the possibilities that are there, reach out. I'd love to talk to you about kind of the governance side of things. But at a minimum, just know that this is a solvable problem today. Your employees are already using it. You have so much potential in front of you, and it's such an exciting time to be in the public sector based on all the amazing things. We've heard about some of the NCT COG things. You're going to hear about even more. And this is our moment. So we have a small window of opportunity to deal with this before it becomes a liability, before the people will start to send FOIA requests for what our employees are using AI for. And we have to be able to answer those questions. And if you need help answering those, definitely reach out. And I'll hand things back to Tim.
All right. Well, thank you, Dustin. And thank you, Tim, for those two presentations. Really fascinating. Tim, I really love the concept of the incubation sandbox. I think that's an amazing best practice as we think about how we bring AI into our organizations. For those of you who haven't met me, I'm Tim Rosner. I'm the mayor of Sherwood, Oregon. And I'm also very active in the government technology sector in my day jobs. But so I'll be here to moderate the rest of this session. But before we get to the panel and questions, and if you have, by the way, if you have questions as we're moving along here, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. You can go ahead and get those questions in. And when we get to the panel section towards the end of this webinar, we'll start taking those questions and asking our panelists. But for now, I want to introduce Lacey Pritchard. She's a records manager for Manatee County, Florida, who will share how her team has implemented an AI-powered solution to support 311, I was about to say 311, 311 services and resident services, improving communications, responsiveness, and day-to-day operations within their building. Welcome, Lacey.
Hi, thank you, Tim. Just like Tim said, my name is Lacey Pritchard. I'm the Records and Information Management for Manatee County government. We're in Florida, so it's sunny Florida, which is a beautiful place to live. I am overseeing our customer experience team, which also manages our 311 system. I oversee our communications division along with I'm also public records. So in which communications also oversees the website. So one of the things that we've done is we went live with a brand new website about a year ago. And so we knew we went from a website that was department focused to a web website that was service focused. Citizens don't care if a pothole being filled is done by Public Works Department, or that the water is delivered by the Utilities Department, or Veteran Services is in Community and Veteran Services. We wanted to make it where it is service driven. So what we did is when we did go live with that website, it was a change for our community and how they engaged with us. And so while we were doing this, we were also starting to get a lot of the pressures. And I mean, everybody who's talked about it today is about the pressures of where are we at on AI? You got to get AI. AI. The organization internally, we were using AI on some things already, but we were looking at what is the next thing that we can do to engage AI and start engaging with our citizens. So we started to do the approach to see what was going to work best for us. And so we started to look at, okay, let's do a chat bot that's going to be able to go in our website and scan, and where we can navigate citizens, business owners. In our area, we have lots of visitors, so they can go to our website and ask questions. So what we did is we shifted from we had a reliable, well-organized. We took this opportunity, I apologize. The website was brand new, so the data was good. So we took this as an opportunity. This is somewhere where we can find a win for the leadership that was wanting us to implement AI. It was a win for our teams, our internal teams, but it also was a win that we could possibly get with our citizens. So we shopped around, we got some good information. We did not jump at purchasing. We did thoughtful, research, and we went with a chatbot that scans our website regularly. And what we did is we even embraced it to a point where we named it after our beloved mascot for our organization. So that was a huge win for us, because citizens now can engage with Cortez on our website 24/7. So you're probably asking, why does that matter? Every time, the way we look at it is every time someone engages and gets the answer they need to a question on our website through our chatbot, that's one less call coming into 311. So they can find the answer. They can, so it's fewer calls to the team. So the current where we control what goes into the system. The website, shifting to the tool, Cortez crawls our website weekly, gets all of the updated information, and we can monitor. What we found that was really great was Cortez also gives us a back office view at what questions are being asked. So there's going to be questions that Cortez can't answer. Guess what? It helps us put better content on our website. So that way, that was an extra thing that we didn't even factor into when we purchased the chatbot and thought of implementing it. We did not. We were just looking at it, getting answers to our citizens basically, but it actually was an added feature, knowing that we have a system that can find holes in our website. So the more that we can improve our website, once again, the less calls that we're going to get. Just to kind of give you a snapshot of what our chatbot, since implementation a few months ago, has already interacted with 51,000 questions. 51,000 questions. So the way I look at that, those are individuals that may have asked 2 questions with Cortez, but that's we approximated 48,000 less calls to the call center. That's 1 FTE for my organization. I am hoping the more we leverage this new technology, I'm going to have better stats, more return on investment. But just staffing this is a huge return. And we're looking already on how, because what Cortez is also doing is earning trust, the transparency on our website, and getting the information fast to our citizens. So that's also when we can start expanding Cortez to do other things for us. Our plans are to hopefully one day have it where you can interact with Cortez on our website to get a service request for a pothole, for a stop sign down, or traffic light not working. Instant automatically routes to the field teams. There's so much opportunity there. The one thing that here in Florida, we deal with hurricanes and storm activations. We're thankful we did not have to test Cortez this past storm season, but we are planning on the future and how we're going to leverage this technology to get those main questions answered quickly, because one of the things we do is activate our 311 surge. So we're going to be looking to Cortez being our extra agent within the surge center, answering those questions. I do want to share one of the biggest successes from Cortez that we did have, and it was our Big Bin initiative. And that was when we were changing the way people manage their solid waste. And we had a specifically page on our website set up for this organization, this change, and Cortez was able to answer more questions than our call center. So I just want to, we're embracing the technology, but we're being responsible. And so if anything that I can stress to any of you all, when you're considering this, be thoughtful in it, think about it, but then also help educate your leadership too, that when you find the proper software that's going to work, it's a win for everybody, including our citizens that we serve. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Lacey. That was fascinating, and congratulations on your implementation. I love there was two things I loved about what you talked about. One is branding your chatbot with Cortez. I think was a brilliant move because you move that into so many parts of your organization, and I love the concept of a service first implementation of your website, which is a great concept as we think about how to engage with our communities. Anyway, so again, thank you, Lacey. Thank you, Tim and Dustin. We're going to move into the panel discussion section of this webinar today. So I'd invite Dustin, Tim, and Lacey to turn their cameras back on. And remind everybody, you should have a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So if you have a question, just press that button, put your question in there, and we'll try to get to all your questions. But to get everybody warmed up, I thought I'd start with some questions from myself. And I think we'll jump back to Dustin. So as we move forward from generative to agentic, when I was listening to your question, I imagined myself with a bunch of agents that ran my whole life so I could sit on the beach all day. And I'm just curious how we think about that in terms of the value we bring in an organization as an individual as we start having all these agents do these tasks.
It's a great question. I think one of the first recommendations that we have for agencies, especially those that are looking at agentic AI, is ensuring that human in the loop is a core pillar and provision of any type of agentic workflow. Meaning you may have an agency go out and do manual research for you and bring it back. But before it goes to the next stage of the process, maybe you're doing research to inform new policy. You want to ensure that there's a human in the loop that's reviewing it, that's ensuring accuracy of it, that is asking those critical questions. So I think as you look at proper construct of agentic infrastructure, it should be where humans are driving those steps, and you're using agents to fulfill manual, repetitive, mundane tasks that are repeatable, that Someone may go out and do a bunch of research. You may need something filled out, but you want to ensure that you're leveraging humans to drive that process forward. There's a lot of, this is a controversial topic, right? When it comes to, will AI impact jobs? Will AI, replace jobs? Those types of things. I think one other way to also think about this is not a black or white, answer. It's not just it's going to replace you or it's going to, augment you. Think about your job as basically composed of hundreds of individual tasks. So there's no doubt that AI is going to impact probably 10% or more of those tasks. But it doesn't mean that the person behind the job and the job description is going away. It means that those tasks are going to evolve. And we've seen this with other major evolutionary leaps in technology and other major, industrial shifting moments in society. And I think we're in that now. Now it's definitely moving quick. And I know there's a lot of fear and unknowns. And there is some temptation, I think, with employees to maybe outsource more of what you want to do. But I think that's why, from a policy standpoint, ensure that expectations are clear. If, have an answer to what happens if you push something out that is wrong and is factually incorrect. It's not the AI's problem. It's the employee that pushed it out. It's the employee that authorized it, the employee that drove the process. So make those lines very clear so that employees and your people own that part of the process and they feel accountable for trusting the output, just like they would manage a vendor or a contractor or something else. In this case, it's just an agent.
Great, thank you for that, Dustin. As I've thought about it, it makes me think about the value I bring to my organizations, right? Is that value being able to fill out a spreadsheet, or is that value is the thoughts and the ideas and the wisdom that I can bring to the table as we push initiatives and ideas through our organization? I'm kind of keeping to this theme a little bit, in AI adoption, Tim. You mentioned the incubator process that you've set up at NICOG. And I was just curious if you could talk a little bit about that, because, there's pressures to do AI right now and, that risk of skipping the governance layer and all those. Could you talk a little bit about how you're addressing that, how you use that incubator to kind of work through those things?
Yeah, the incubator actually started out not just for AI. It started out for how we're going to test any type of new technology. It just so happened that a lot of the new technology these days is AI. So we're doing a lot of AI projects within that. And what that allows us to do is, because governance is a difficult process and it's evolving, the tools are starting to catch up with the capabilities of these systems. So early on, you didn't really have good options for governance, but we didn't want to not take the opportunity to learn these new technologies and start seeing what their capabilities are. So when the tools do catch up, we could, jump right in and start using those new tools. So yeah, I mean, the sandbox environment, as we call it, we just spun that up kind of parallel to our existing production environment. Obviously, not to the same scale, but architected very similar to our production environment. So things that we run in there, we can see how that would look in production, and then determine what controls need to be in place, what risks there are, et cetera, as we work through those pilot projects. So yeah, I mean, you want to, if you don't have governance figured out yet, you definitely want to take AI cautiously and try to look for ways to implement it without getting too far in front of your skis. But so that's one way that we did that. If like technology debt is a big concept if you're in IT, where you've accumulated all of this outdated or maybe misconfigured or not properly documented technology over time. Well, AI has the potential to exponentially expand or to create an even bigger mess of that. So we want to make sure that you do have that governance in place so you don't get down the road and realize, oh my gosh, if I implement this system now, I'm going to break everything that we've done to this point. So definitely important and definitely something you want to consider, but the sandbox gives you a way to start to tinker without having everything figured out.
All right, thanks, Tim. Lacey, maybe a question for you. You kind of talked a little bit about this, but I'd like you to expand on it. What are the things that not only surprised you, but surprised your staff in the organization as you implemented that chatbot? Or I should say Cortez.
Yes. So one of the things I did touch on a little bit was the chat bot actually ended up being like almost like a checks and balance for us. We were able to go into the back office of Cortez and see all of the questions not answered. Not as many as we had expected. So that also reassured us that we had set up our website and structured it well enough in the service area. But we were able to go in and filter out those questions, and we'll divvy them up to different website editors to help them restructure some of our website, so that next time someone asks that question, they're going to get an answer. It's not going to refer the person to call 311. So that was one of the really surprising benefits that we never once factored into this new tool coming on board.
Awesome. Thank you. Super fascinating. I'm going to switch to we got a question from our attendees. Sherry, I apologize. I might pronounce your name wrong, but Sherry Fanaggio, her question is, how do you get AI and in place cybersecurity measures to play nice together? And sounds like that might be a question for Dustin or Tim or Lacey. Either one of you can chime in.
I'll let
You want me
Justin
to-
take this one.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a great question, because as you think about your cybersecurity posture, AI is part of that now. And so there's a variety of existing things that you're doing from a cybersecurity standpoint to mitigate loss, to deal with risk in recovery. And so I think all of those things still hold true. I would say, as you think about some of the AI governance pieces, it needs to tie into your overall IT governance strategy and IT security strategy. But there's some nuances associated with this, because we have some interesting things that are taking place. For example, with most software now being delivered as a service, vendors can choose to update their software with AI features, which all of a sudden make you AI users. What is your ability to control that? What types of procurement hooks do you want to put around that? What is your policy for that? What is your kind of association with the vendors? So there's a variety of new things now that I think require kind of a different type of architecture that should be synergistic with what you're already doing from a cybersecurity standpoint. So you still want to do the basics, but you also want to now think about, how do I get visibility into these AI tools and control over when vendors introduce new types of capabilities and models? How do I deal with data loss within a model, not just with a computer or other types of things? So this is an extension of kind of your existing security posture. Now should be for this AI moment where you start to think about how you extend that into the wild west of new things that are taking place. And I think the most important thing is, just even from a training standpoint, you do annual cybersecurity training, you do phishing exercises and other things. We are at the same moment as it relates to not just change management with how to use AI for productivity, but also the security threats around AI. What's acceptable? What's not acceptable? What should you do? What should you not do? So I think these are all important things you want to think about, even incorporating into your training regimen for AI cybersecurity, for AI appropriate and responsible use, those types of things. So they're synergistic, but I think this moment requires thinking a little bit broader about it, which is where, typically from our standpoint, we align with your existing security posture and just bring it into the AI era.
Thanks, Dustin. Carl Nunn has a question in here about cross-functional working groups, and I'm just curious, maybe for Lacey and Tim, when you started looking at these projects, and obviously, government organizations, I shouldn't say obviously, in some government organizations we tend to operate in silos, and we're always trying to break down those silos. And I'm just curious, how did you get buy-in from the rest of the organization? Did you have cross-functional teams? How did that work, and what was the journey there?
I could take that one. With us, with the launch of specifically Cortez, that was a pretty much a quick buy-in for that. I will follow up on some of that. We have a very strict regimented project management for any onboarding of IT software, we have to go through before we even procure anything. There is tons of vetting. We have IT, our security has questionnaires that have to be filled out by the vendor. We also have AI now being implemented into those questions. One of the other things that, regardless of software, whether it's public facing or internal use, we still have, if it has an AI component in it. And so we literally have a inventory of all of our software that's being used by the organization. And it's also reviewed by myself as the custodian of record for public records for making sure our data is secure, that we can meet those FOIA requests, because the more we introduce this AI is going to be, it's just a matter of time before the FOIA questions do start the FOIA requests start coming in requesting that type of information. So those are things that we are posturing and planning for. But you have to follow those processes. And sometimes they're slower than what the want is. And so that's been the hardest part of, getting the buy-in from that. And it's really starting to catch on in the organization, understanding we've got to get it. We've got to get it right, because if we don't get it right, we lose trust, and trust and transparency is altogether the same to me.
Yeah, and I could
go ahead, Tim.
I can add a little bit to that on what we're doing from a cross-functional standpoint. And I think the challenge with AI is because it is a technology, and people see it as a technology project, but really it's an organizational transformation. Technology is just one small component of this. It is a very important component, because that's where a lot of the controls and governance, security, et cetera, are put in place, and the tool selection and implementation. But all of the other stuff, the enablement, the training, use case identification, implementing within working teams is very much needs to be driven by the business units themselves. And we ran into these challenges at NCT COG as well, because we are siloed, just like many organizations. We try not to be, but some areas were just blazing forward, and others weren't adapting as fast. And so we did create our AI committee, which was across all departments. Every department has a representative on that. And then within the individual departments, some of them created smaller teams that worked on their AI initiatives, and then that kind of filtered back up so we could share those ideas across departments. One of the things that we're doing right now is we're launching an AI champions group team initiative. And that's going to be where we take power users in each of those areas and get them more resources, more training, more access, and then have them share what they're doing through lunch and learns or through recorded demonstrations, et cetera, so that we can share that with the rest of the organization, so they can hopefully find areas that they can look to adopt that within their structure.
Interesting. Thank you, Tim. I have a question from Ian Swanson. He asks, can someone talk more about the challenges with vendors putting AI into their products where you don't have the level of transparency that you want with those models, and where the data is going and can't control it? How are you folks handling that? Who would like to take that one?
I can take a first crack at that.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a growing challenge, right? When it comes to what we see in an environment, about 62% of an organization's AI, they don't know about it before we deploy. It's what we call shadow AI. And most of it is embedded, where it's like Einstein in Salesforce and, fill in the blank generative AI model that's in an app. And it's not nefarious, and it's not like employees are bringing DeepSeek into the environment. It's just that you have a lot of existing applications that have it there. So I would say it's not even a question of like when it comes, it's already there, and your employees may be using it. I would say second to that, in terms of the kind of controls, I think there's a few approaches. One, procurement has been one where you put some teeth and safeguards in place in terms of disclosure and expectations for vendors. They don't always align or hold to that, so it is a little bit more challenging, but you can at least have some contractual obligations there in terms of what your expectations are, especially around data reuse and those types of things. Be very careful though, because the feds are targeting onerous, overbearing regulations that border on like model disclosure, training data disclosure, those types of things. So depending on where you're at, look at like the GovAI coalition. If you're in Texas, TREGA, like align to some of those standards in terms of expectations for vendors. And then, also if you need help with that, that's something that we do. We detect the presence of AI as well as when vendors, put it in their products, we'll alert you about it. And then you have an opportunity to make a classification decision on it. So that's where I think this moment requires a new architecture in terms of how you need to approach it. It can't be when you get a FOIA, or it can't be, you turn a blind eye to it. It's here.
Great. Thank you, Dustin. Yeah, that's a fascinating challenge and in how you control that. Tim, I have a question for you. I think you could answer, with Nick Cogg's role in representing so many agencies in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, what orgs are you looking at that are your gold standard that you wish you could be more like in terms of how they're addressing AI, their governance, those three pillars that you talked about at the beginning of the session?
Yeah, I mean, I guess other than looking in the mirror, just kidding. But no, AI is interesting because it's such a big challenge, and organizations are doing it well in specific areas. I always like to break AI into kind of four buckets. You have your personal productivity, you have your internal automation and agents, you have your external automation and agents, and then you have new services. So when you look at those four buckets, people tend to pick projects in one of those buckets to really get good at. And a lot of agencies started with three, which is external facing AI on existing products and services. So like a chatbot on your website, or a AI review on the planning process, et cetera. So I actually recommend organizations to start at personal productivity, because then people learn how to use the tools and get comfortable with what AI is good at and what it's not good at. And that way, when you get to those further stages, which require more and more trust and have more and more risk, you have a more capable staff and informed staff as you start implementing those. But I mean, the big ones, like if you're not part of San Jose's GovAI coalition, they're ones they're kind of leading in the government space on AI adoption and standards and best practices. Boston is always really good. We've got people within the region that are doing interesting things. The city of Fort Worth, city of McKinney. So it's not one where I just pick this is the model agency, because it's just such a big thing. If we talked about a specific use case, I think we could probably find some, but overall, everyone's taking their own approach and picking their area to focus on.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, super fascinating. We have another question from the attendees. Matt Hairline from Trenton, Missouri. I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit, but I'm guessing he represents a smaller organization, and technology can be expensive. Even says robot customer service requests can be a little bit scary. It's hard to afford the technology. How do small governments not get left behind? And do you have tips for how they think about this?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that if anyone else has anything to add. So first, I mean, if you're using Microsoft, or you're a Microsoft environment, or if you're a Google environment, go with the AI that's included in those licenses. The E3 and the E5 license within Microsoft has Copilot included, and that includes enterprise level security and controls and governance capabilities, et cetera. So from a personal productivity standpoint, that's a good place to start. And Microsoft is doing a lot in that space. I think Copilot has kind of been seen as not the best tool, but it's evolving. They use ChatGPT's or OpenAI's models. Now they're using Claude or Anthropic's models. So they're expanding their capabilities, and they're rolling out more and more features, and they're getting better. So I would start there. That at least gives people a taste. And then, just picking, all of these have different levels of plans. And so just finding a plan that fits you for this current moment and sticking with that, not trying to overbuy, just finding the right tool for the right role.
One other thought on that one would be to also look at neighboring cities and counties. Look if there's opportunities to partner. They may have an enterprise or government license of some of these tools that they might be willing to do a cost recovery on because they have, some more valuable contracting vehicle or terms that are there. So partner here. Even local universities, community colleges, they're always looking for real world use cases, and there's a ton of MPA students that are using AI in all kinds of functions now. So reach out to some of those and find ways to maybe partner, be a case study for them, and get some tools and resources in the process.
Great. Thank you, Dustin. Thank you, Tim. And I would just add to that too. There's like NICCOG has a cooperative purchasing program, and I know they have a lot of AI products available through their cooperative purchasing program. That's another avenue you can look at to save a little money. Lacey, did you have anything you wanted to add on any of this? I'm gonna get last shot at this before we roll out of the webinar here.
I just thank you for the opportunity. I just want to, even though I was a panelist, I still learned from this. So I'm hoping everybody that attended today did take away something from this. And I want to embrace it. We want to embrace AI, but be thoughtful. And that's all I got. I'm like at a loss of words right now. So my apologies.
No worries. Thank you, Lacey. Well, so we're about out of time today. I want to thank our panelists today. It was fascinating, and like Lacey said, I learned a lot today. I'm going to be checking out Paperclip, for instance. That was fascinating, Dustin. Since some of the best practices, Tim, that you talked about were great, and Lacey, congratulations on a successful deployment of your AI chatbot and bringing Cortez into your community. This webinar is brought to you by the Technology Foresight Council. As Tim introduced it at the beginning of the meeting, we do a meeting once a quarter, so you can expect invitations coming down the road. But I had a great time. I hope the attendees had a great time, and I wish you all a great day. Thank you, everybody.